All right,
second.
motion made and second. Other comments or questions? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, budget presentation 2016-17. Joe?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Tonight, we present the budget for your consideration. And to do that, we're going to give a brief outline on what the statutory requirements are of the state of North Carolina. We'll walk you through the budget schedule and the process that we followed to create the budget that's presented for your consideration tonight. And then, as part of the statutory requirements, I, as your manager, need to deliver a budget message. So those are the three things we'll cover tonight. Real quickly over the statutory requirements, and this is actually written into state law, so this is General Statute 159. Before April 30th, departments submit their budget requests, expenditures, and revenues to date, and projections to the end of the fiscal year are required. You'll be happy to know that we were starting this process in December, and we were wrapping it up in February, so we were beating the state requirement. Not later than June 1st, budget officer, which is your town manager, submits the budget and budget message to the board. So once again, we're beating the statutory deadline. And then not later than July 1st, adopt a budget ordinance, meaning making appropriations and levying taxes. But before adopting the budget, hold a public hearing. So those are the state requirements. Process and the schedule that we will follow. Budget message is being presented tonight as part of the statutes. The goals and the features of the budget activities need to be presented with the budget message, with particular note recognizing the changes from the previous year, changes being due to changes in programs and the appropriations associated with those programs. Then on May 10th and May 24th, we will have staff come present to you in work session formats the details behind those changes from the previous year. So that's going to be your opportunity to get into the details of the changes, but also the rationale behind the changes that we have proposed to you. The budget ordinance public hearing, we're going to recommend that you request the public hearing for June 6th. The adopting the budget ordinance, you can do it that night. You will have met the state statute requirements. You can do it June 22nd. We already have a scheduled meeting. Or you can do it any other time, just as long as it's not later than July 1st. So with that, let's get into the budget message with the goals and the features. So we had two goals. The first goal was to control the cost of investments. Don't let them control us. And as we did at your governing board retreat, focus on two of our biggest, or the biggest investments that we got, which is our streets infrastructure and our fleet. And so what are things that we can do to control the cost of those investments and not let the cost get out of control? Second goal is to gain returns on our investments. So how do we make the investments that we currently have make money so we're not overburdening our taxpayers? So we have right now a downtown district, a lot of infrastructure down there, a lot of buildings. So how do we invest in the downtown overlay district? And recently you adopted a Greenway master plan. So how do we become a walkable community and gain some returns on investing in a sidewalk and greenway system? So the first feature that we focused on is managing our streets. And as you remember from the governing board retreat, we learned that deferred maintenance is costly. Specifically, we showed you this graph right here. And you look at that solid curving downward black line, that's the pavement deterioration curve. So as you go further to the right in progressing through years, the cost to repair streets in those areas is going to increase. So you repair streets in this area, it's going to be about 65 cents per square yard. I apologize for that. As you go further to the right, it goes from $3.50 to $6.50 to $8.45, all the way down to close to $20 a square yard if you defer the maintenance. So that was one point that we made at retreat. Deferred maintenance is costly. Second point we made is deferred maintenance compounds. So to use a phrase, if you kick the can down the road, the can just collects with other cans. And we showed examples of this at retreat. So you can see if nothing is done, not only do those streets that right now are ranked in the excellent category, not only do they drop off dramatically from 50% down to less than 20%, the percentage of the poor streets rises up dramatically. So as nothing is being done, the streets that fall into those poor categories just adds together and compounds. And then eventually, if the needs are compounded enough, the cost to repair those just become insurmountable. And we shared this during retreat as well, whereas a price tag for doing something now could be $1 million. By 2023, it's approaching $5 million. So here's the goal that we present for you, for your consideration. Get our streets out of the red zone. And as we get the streets out of the red zone and keep them out, we spend less money paving the bad streets, and so the paving money can go further. So we pave more streets with the same amount of money. An example that we gave to you at retreat showed you a somewhat aggressive approach where we were looking to eliminate all the red streets and get the predominant number of your streets in either the excellent or good category. And we shared with you that, I'll tell you what buy time means in a minute, shared with you that the cost burden to do that was pretty substantial. 3.5 cents for the first year, an additional 2-cent property tax increase the following year, and an additional 1-cent property tax increase the following year. This budget does not propose doing that. This is not a budget to fix the world. This is a budget to stop the bleeding, so to speak. So we're looking to buy some time. And so what we're doing is we're presenting for your consideration a version of this, which is using some of your general fund balance to catch up, not to the 300 and the 500 and the 600,000 presented to you at retreat, the 254, and dedicating that to the worst street first, which right now Wakefield ranks as your worst street. And then coming up and dedicating 2-cent property tax increase for an ongoing annual street resurfacing project. So you would have a version of what we presented to you back at retreat where you've got a big bump in 2017, 2018, and then you just roll into a consistent street paving. The results that we can project are not going to be as favorable as what we presented to you at retreat. You're still going to have some poor and moderately conditioned streets, but at least, like I said, we're looking to slow things down, stop things from deteriorating, at least getting on a consistent pattern. Before I leave this slide, are there any questions or comments?
Joe, I think it's appropriate to, for the audience to know that 1 cent generates roughly $80,000.
Thank you. All right, now let's look at the fleet. Similar conversation, fleet-like streets deteriorate over time. So once again, at retreat, we learned that deferred replacement equals costly repair. So the police chief shared this with you, and while that presentation was focused on police vehicles, it was meant to be a representation of all fleets. And when we go into the work sessions, you'll hear more details behind this. Similar conversation, much like streets, vehicles were ranked in different categories. The categories were based upon the years of usage or the mileage associated with them. And you can see, particularly in our police vehicles with heavy use, because they are mobile offices that get an awful lot of use. By the time we get into a 5-year or the $50,000 to $70,000 range, we start to have some sizable maintenance replacements. So deferred replacement equals costly repairs. We also shared that deferred replacements can compound. So as we shared at retreat, what could be an excellent vehicle or 6 excellent vehicles 1 year could drop to 4, could drop to 2, could drop to 1. And then the fair vehicles rise until the point that you got a static number of fair, and then the rest are rolling into a poor category. And as the chief said, he was not going to put a poor vehicle on the streets. And ultimately, that would lead to out-of-service repairs. We are starting to see a little bit of this in some of our fleet. Our fire engine, as an example, has been out of service for a couple of weeks. We've got backup with our ladder truck, but with the expectation of having 3 engines available for service, this is something we want to get out in front of, and so this figures into the budget that we propose for you. The other thing to take note of is, as these needs compound, in order to afford their replacement, the only way to pay for them is to take out loans, and sometimes loans are an absolutely necessary thing. When we get big vehicles with longer terms of service, and specifically I'm thinking about fire engines that run around $750,000 and have a service life of 15 to 20 years, or ladder trucks that go for $1.5 million and have service lives between 20 to 30 years. We clearly need to and would be appropriate in taking out a loan for that. Those are things that we can finance. The concern here is that we're getting into a cycle where we're taking out loans for short-term common pieces of equipment, these pieces of equipment that turn over every 5 years. If we get into a situation where we got too many loans outstanding for all these short-term or common pieces of equipment, like police vehicles, we're concerned we're going to get into a bind where we've got too many loans out at one time. So this budget offers a way for us to avoid that. So here's what the goal of the budget that's presented to you. Similar to the streets, get out of this red zone. We'll spend less on maintenance. We'll maintain service reliability, so those vehicles, not only we're spending less on maintenance, but the maintenance is not becoming so great in magnitude that we're having to take vehicles out of service. We want to even out the spending, so we don't want to have a bunch of pocket loans for short-term common pieces of equipment. And we need to buy time for a couple things. The first thing is, you'll see in the budget that's presented to you, much like the streets, the amount of funding that we're requesting is not going to fix the problem. But what we're hoping for is, as your tax base grows, so as more residential development comes in, as more industrial development comes in, the value of the 1 cent property tax increase right now we're estimating would bring in $80,000. As the tax base grows, that could go to 85 to 90, maybe even 95,000. So we're getting more purchasing power with that 1 cent tax increase. The other thing is, we need to buy time for these big singular pieces of equipment. The fire engine that I mentioned, as well as the ladder truck. Those are coming due in 4 years. And we need to figure out a way to structure the loans to buy those very expensive pieces of equipment. So this budget is a way for us to buy time so we can figure out how to structure the loans for those big pieces of equipment. So how do we propose to do this? Well, we need to clean up the lot, so to speak. We've got some fixed assets on the lot we can get rid of, we need to get rid of. And so this budget assumes that we're going to get some revenue from selling some of those fixed assets. Similar to the street conversation, we want to use some of your general fund balance to catch up, but not only catch up, but to leverage for some grants and gain some hand-me-down vehicles. So what I mean by that is this. specifically associated with the grants. Right now, we have a partnership with Wake County where they will fund 50% of our equipment. And so if we can use some general fund balance to get them to match 50%, we figured that was a good use of general fund balance. The other thing is, some of these pieces of equipment, like I had mentioned the police vehicle, they get used very heavily. They will start to, and will need to turn them over every 5 years. Similar situation, the time frames are a little bit longer, but a similar situation with public works vehicles. We use them a lot, and so they get aged quickly. But with some of our other departments, ones that are not on the road as much, or not doing as much, have as much heavy use, specifically with our Parks and Rec department, as well as our planning department, we're looking to leverage some of these general fund balance money so we can transition some of these vehicles to a different use. So while they may no longer be a good police or public works vehicle, they're still a good vehicle for planners, or for planning, and didn't mean to be degrading to planners. Planners are important. For planning or for parks and recreation. And then, once again, similar to the street conversation, get ourselves into reliability and predictability frame of mind, where we dedicate 2 cents property tax increase to annual, I said street resurfacing, I should say fleet management program. Any questions or comments on that slide?
Just for clarification, I don't think you said that the 50% match is for fire, not for other vehicles, only for fire.
That's correct, it is just for fire. All right, so that was goal 1. Goal 2, we're looking to gain return on investments. We're focused on 2 areas, the downtown overlay district and how to become a walkable community. So investing into downtown, we'll go back and revisit the presentation we made at the board retreat, and we shared some experiences of other communities, specifically that change presents opportunities. So this was something that Mark Hetrick prepared for you. It shows the roof of a cinema, I think, in Virginia that had fallen down. As happens sometimes in downtowns, as retail activity drops off or a property owner is not able to put back into their business, things degrade, and then natural events like snowstorms or winds or things like that can literally bring a structure down, as was the case in this movie theater. In this particular town, how they approached this was not just to leave it and not just to clean it up, but to show some different leadership on that. And so they turned this space right there, which was where the old movie screen went, and they turned that into a performing area. So they'll have performances like this children's band. They'll also have movies on the lawn. And the other thing that they realize, that I think that we can realize as well as you look out the front of this, is this community is now engaged. They're not only engaged in figuring out how to save this building, but they're engaged in participating. And when you get a community engaged, there's things that can happen on their own that don't necessarily need money from the town. They just need someone to show some leadership, someone to go out first. And through community engagement in this particular town, we saw that community then got mobilized. They started, in this case, doing some murals. They started doing some art sculptures and art paintings. And what they were looking for from the town was not necessarily financial support, but just some sort of permission to be able to do this sort of thing. So this budget presents to you goals to invest in downtown, so seize opportunities to partner. What we're not proposing in this budget is to dump a lot of money into downtown. What we are proposing is to meet people halfway, where we leverage money and we partner with them when they present money or sweat equity for that matter. So an example is facade grants. Take a look at this building. An example of a facade grant would be to clean it up, get new windows on it, put awnings or even street lights out front, or put it out on the building. And facade grant programs, Wendell has one as an example, are meant to not necessarily buy the facade improvement or for the town to be responsible for the internal improvements, but to somehow buy down the cost through reimbursement up to a certain percent of what a property owner puts in there to build up their space, whether it's on the outside, like within a facade grant, or whether it's inside the building. This budget, we did not put money in there for internal improvements. We want to take some incremental steps, and we think the facade grant program is a way to start. But the internal improvements certainly would be the next stepping stone to take. The other thing is to engage the community. Call this base hits, where much like the previous town, you engage the community and they came forward with ideas. As an example, they did very simple things like painting on the side of this building, and they took some comic relief out of this fire alarm here. But the big story here is this is very little money spent, but it's a very big statement. This is saying that there are people here, even though this is just a painting of a person. It's letting people who drive through, people who even live in the community, that someone cares about downtown. So as opposed to this, where it's dark and you're not really sure what's coming around the corner, this is kind of serving notice that we care about our town. And so, I'll get into the specifics of what that means in a minute. And then sustain the community. So the facade grants are a good start to partner with people who want to move in or improve existing buildings. The engaging the community is a good start as well. But at some point, you need some sort of organization to sustain the community. And what we're going to propose to you is we think that the best program to do that is the North Carolina Main Street program. North Carolina Main Street offers training, offers access to loans, offers organizational help, offers conferences, and as we found with those other communities that Mark shared with you, it's when you have this constant engaged group of people, not the people that just come to the movies, not the people that just come and paint the murals, but a group that has bylaws, has tax-exempt status, that has articles of incorporation. That group is what sustains the downtown. It's not enough to throw money at a downtown area or any area for that matter. This is an engaged group that does some sweat equity on their own, but also leverages the money that the town has and comes up with matching funds of their own. So what we're proposing in this budget is really leveraging your general fund balance for the facade grant program. One detail to point out, it's an important detail, is it's not enough in our opinion just to have a facade grant program. A market study is going to allow us to understand what type of businesses could go in there and be successful. While facade grants would be a good thing for someone who has some interest in the downtown, we want to put our money on a winner, so to speak. And the market study gives an indication of what type of retail activity, what type of commercial activity, maybe even what type of residential activity would be successful downtown. Where is the need, and will the need be filled by that type of business downtown? So this is really a part and parcel. Facade grants really, we think, needs to go with the market study. We're proposing in this budget matching grants. They're not a lot of value, but something to maybe financially incentivize things like this, where if someone wants to come up and do a mural, or someone wants to come in and put in street benches, or a combination artistic trash cans with recyclable containers associated with that, just some sort of money to put the word out that the town is interested in matching with a group. As part of your UDO process, you will consider some form-based code, which offers some regulatory relief, which takes into account the realities that developing in a downtown has different constraints and opportunities than a green space does. So your requirements in green space, where you've got concern with buffers and setbacks, in downtowns it's just not going to be realistic. So offering regulatory relief for unique development to occur in these constrained areas is going to be part of your UDO process that we've put in the budget to fund. And then finally, a Main Street program, as we have a picture of here, that takes 2 to 3 years to form. There's going to be some time needed to get the articles of incorporation. It's going to be time needed to get the tax exempt status, and we're looking to have some seed money available for a group to come forward and start to form the nucleus of that Main Street program. Any questions or comments in this area? All right, and then the second feature of the second goal, becoming a walkable community. We talked about going on the field trip to Wake Forest and Raleigh, and their greenway system was very impressive and could be daunting. And we walked away understanding that Rome wasn't built in a day. So at Retreat, we gave you a couple of options. You could look at this as having short-term goals while you pursue long-term goals. And so that's what the goal of this budget that we put before you recommends, is to implement the implementation of the Greenway Master Plan through a dual-track approach. So the first approach is, in that first year, fill in the missing gaps. Right now, we have pedestrian corridors, specifically sidewalks, where we've got gaps. So this is a picture along Shepherd School. And Chief, this was, I know the person who took this picture, but they were not texted, so I think we're all right. Is the chief here? He's taking notes. All right. And then what we intend to do or propose to do with this budget is, in that first year while we're filling in the missing gaps, that will buy us the time to complete a greenway segment. And the segment that we've proposed in your budget is this section between Tarrant Meadows and We Respond. Just this line right there. And the reason we're proposing that is, one, we think it's going to get a lot of use because it's tying into 2 residential areas. We think it's going to get a lot of use because it's tying into a couple of destinations, the school and the park up here. But also we're taking advantage of some development obligations, either the dedication of easements and right-of-way, or actually the payment to install some of that greenway system. So we're looking to take advantage of that because we think it will not only get used, but we think, well, the thought is it will defray the cost as well. So our resources, half-cent property tax increase dedicated to an annual sidewalk program. So first year we would complete a section like this. There's another section we've got proposed down there on south of Rendell, crossing the railroad track, heading to the community center. And then by the second year, or in that same time, be pursuing the easement acquisitions and the permits. So by the second year, we can know that that half cent is coming again, and we can roll it into this. Third year, by the third year, we'll have an annual sidewalk rating criteria, so we can be completing sidewalks every year after that. Leverage your general fund balance against grants. John Rex Foundation is one example, but also, as I mentioned, to seize development opportunities. Any questions or comments on this slide? Okay, so the second part of the budget message requirement is to note the changes from their previous year. So your FY16 amended budget, you had a general fund of $8.6 million. The components of that were operating at 6.8, and a debt of about $725,000 a year. Capital expenses were about $1.1 million. Your proposed budget that's presented tonight, general fund of $11.2 million, operating at 7.3, debt at 763, and capital around 3.1 million. So what are the appropriations that cause that difference? Let's first look at the operating of the FY16 amended budget. Big thing to note here is the full-time employees. Ever since 2013, we lost several positions. We lost a couple of positions in police, and we lost a couple of positions in public works. And so one thing that came up as something that was just present, I was picking up, but also when I looked at your financial records when I first came here, this really came across as a doing more with less sort of scenario. And so in this proposed budget, we're looking to redress some of those things that occurred. We're coming out of that recession, and we need to backfill the personnel to fill in the services that we kept going during that very tough time. So the proposed budget under operating has several positions associated with it. First of all, we're adding a position or proposing a position in the planning department to help out with service load with new development coming on. But also that's a very lean department, and particularly a department that spends a lot of time out in the field. We're having service interruptions at the service window. We also want to get more proactive in our code enforcement. Right now we're having to be reactive in our code enforcement, so conditions build up to a certain level. We hear complaints about it, and then we react, and then when we're reacting, we're dealing with a much bigger issue. So our intent is if we can be more proactive, we can get on top of issues sooner, get greater compliance, and have less costly outcomes as a result. One of the positions noted dropping between 2013 and 2014 was with Public Works. We've had a recent retirement, and with that retirement, we had some lapsed salaries with that position, so we're looking to augment those lapsed salaries to regain one of those lost positions in an equipment operator. We're also going to propose to you a position we're calling the asset manager. Right now, we don't have any one person that's looking over streets and fleet and property management. And while we think it's a commendable step and we think it's a necessary step to put money to all three of these areas, it's not enough just to throw money at it. We need someone who's going to be overseeing it, hold that the money is being spent prudently, that we're also keeping track with you and reporting back to you how much progress is being made with the money you're spending. So the estimates on the improvements to the street system, as an example, those are estimates right now. Those are estimates based upon how far we can get with the amount of money that we're expecting to come in. And the reason it's an estimate is because asphalt prices fluctuate greatly. And so we think it's prudent and it's necessary to be accountable to you and the taxpayers to let you know what kind of progress we're making on the street resurfacing, on the sidewalk projects, on property management, and fleet management. As a reflection of this reduction in personnel, particularly in the police department, we've got the need to bring in police officers and help out to cover longer shifts, to work overtime, or when people are out or if they're at court, for example, that officer needs to stay at court all day in Raleigh, and so someone needs to be on shift. So right now, we've got some concerns that we're spending an awful lot of time bringing people in and building up their compensation time. And what we want to do is we're worried that the day is going to come where we've got people with a massive amount of compensation time. We're going to call it in. And so we want to be more up to date and pay people as they're working this overtime and this part-time while we're dealing with the shortage that we've got in the police department. Administrative assistant, right now we've got, in keeping with the doing more with less theme, we've got a lot of duties piled into singular positions. So I take a look at the clerk's position and I see responsibilities associated with clerk and administrative assistant and IT coordinator and Human Resources Director, and it's just too much. And the concern that I've got is while it's not only a lot for one person, I'm worried that, particularly on the HR front, that we have something looming out there, and we're spending so much time taking care of the immediate things. We're not spending the time that we need to plan to take care of HR things townwide or take care of IT issues townwide. And so what I'd like to do is pull in a part-time person to give Ms. Markman just some relief so that we can develop a plan on what we need to do from an HR front, from an IT front, so we can just get a plan, take a pause, and at least get an assessment of where our holes are on the IT front and the HR front. This past year, you approved funding for MPA intern. I think it's a good thing. It's someone that we can bring in with outside perspective. It's also someone that we can give particular assignments to. So this budget requests that we repeat that again for this coming year. Before I leave this slide, I'll just check in to make sure there's any questions. Okay, focusing on the debt. So that table is the current debt that we've got. We're paying about, or we will pay, a little over $325,000 a year in the loan payments for this building, $141,000 for the community center. We've had some work done at the community center and the community park, paying loan payments of that, about $120,000. We've done some building maintenance work on this building, on the police building, on our fire station as well. So those are about $54,000 a year in payments. And then one of the loans that I talked about for the short-term common pieces of equipment and vehicles, we've got a loan outstanding right now for $64,000. So we'll pay some of that down, but one of the things that's proposed in your budget, and I'll get Mr. Ray to go into the details of this at one of your work sessions, is we're going to give a consideration to purchase a piece of equipment called a swap loader. Rather than having individual pieces of equipment like a dump truck and a bulk waste and leaf body and all these different individual types of vehicles, we can purchase one vehicle and we can just swap out the bodies based upon the use that we need it for. We're proposing it for debt because it would be an expensive piece of equipment. It's one of those singular, long service life sorts of equipment like you see with the fire department. So we'll have more details on that. But any general questions before I leave this slide? And then finally going into capital. So last year's capital budget was about $1.1 million. We had budgeted close to $20,000 for street resurfacing. We did not do any street resurfacing. That money was assigned to another project. I think it was assigned to Yates Place, but I need to check my records on that. But suffice it to say, we did not do any street resurfacing last year. We have loan payments of about $64,500, and that's for the vehicle and equipment purchases that we made last year. Greenways and sidewalks, we did not have a program, so we didn't spend any money in that area. And we did not have any programs in downtown or economic development. So in this coming year, your capital is jumping up. And the big sources of that increase are street resurfacing. We're going to be more aggressive, get caught up. $414,000 in street resurfacing. 160 of that we're proposing to come from the 2-cent property tax increase. Fleet, 322. 160 of that is coming from the 2-cent property tax increase. Greenways and sidewalks, 181,000 with a 0.5-cent property tax increase, and that should read 40,000, not 160,000. Downtown economic development, $135,000. This we're leaning entirely on general fund balance. And then the big ticket item is we were the recipient of a Campo LAP grant, but we also leveraged that grant against some general fund balance, and so we've got a project of $1.2 million out there for the widening of north of Rendell. And then the town hall basement, we've got water infiltration. We fixed half of it last year, so we've got another half to take care of. We want to get after this so we don't have any mold issues come before us. And this is, we're associating 100, I apologize for this, this should be half cent, equates to $40,000. So the big tax increases that we're talking about is 2 cents going to street, 2 cents going to fleet, half a cent going to greenways, half a cent going to property management this year, focus on the basement in this building. Any questions or comments? So the next steps, you completed step 1, you had the budget message tonight. Your first work session is May 10th in this room at 7 o'clock. You'll have a second work session on May 24th. June 6th, if you choose to schedule the public hearing, you can have a public hearing on the budget ordinance. You can adopt a budget ordinance that night. You can adopt it June 22nd. You can adopt it anytime, just as long as it's not later than July 1st. So any questions or comments on anything that's presented? And any disposition on how you want to move forward on the public hearing?
Look in the, sorry,
I'm sorry.
in the public view, the budget now,
Yes.
and where they're located.
Sure. So what we're going to do is by state statute, we have to keep a copy here, so that copy will be in the clerk's office. We'll also have a copy in the finance director's office. We're going to distribute copies out into the community as well. So we're going to bring a copy to the library. We're going to bring it to the East Regional Center. I'm hoping that we're successful in getting in touch with some civics teachers at East Wake Academy, East Wake High School. And we're also working to make this available online as well.
Thank you.
The only remark I wanted to make was one, thank you for all the work and effort that you put into it. And up until this point, it has been staff's budget. Now it becomes the board's budget. So it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and go to work. Will the final product be what was presented here tonight? I don't know. You know, we're going to have to work on it. So, but I just, again, wanted you to understand that this is staff's recommended budget. When we go to public hearing, it more than likely will have some differences. What they'll be, I don't know. We'll have to see that as we move forward. But I wanted to be sure that people understood that. Other comments? Anybody?
No, I think there's something there we have to face, and
We got a lot to work
it's going to
with.
be some hard decisions to make here. So
Yeah. Yep, we got a lot to work with on. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
thank you, Joe.
Okay, we are now to new business, B1 ordinance 2016-27, purchase of this says a weed seeker. I think it's really meant to be a weed seeker. That's what's on my agenda. Anyway, we asked that be pulled. I personally was just curious, one, a little bit about it, but two, what the urgency was. Here we are in the throes of budget for next year and wanting to amend the budget and do another capital expenditure. So I was really curious to hear what, was time of the essence? Is there something about it, or?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. It's actually this opportunity that came about that we want to take advantage of. And then one of our goals in our operating budget is to constantly look at operating effectiveness and efficiency. This is some new technology that has actually now made the public works industry. It's been in the agriculture industry for quite a while. Excuse me. We have an opportunity to buy it at a little bit of a discount if we do some work with the vendor as far as doing some other demonstrations. We're also getting to the point where this is the time where we go out in the field and have to go through a very labor-intensive process to try to spray our curbs. Spraying our curbs takes generally about 3 to 4 days for 2 guys, and we do it 4 to 5 times a year, so it's very labor-intensive. By adding this attachment to our street sweeper, clearly we're going to save on the time and labor output that we put in, and we feel like that the payback is it's a year and a half. So we feel like it's very effective, and with staff shortages, it's just the time to take advantage of an opportunity like this.
Well, what is the value of the opportunity?
$8,400 is the cost of the item.
No.
The savings that they have offered us is approximately 15%.
So 84 is 85% of what it would cost.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. Okay, well, that was my concern, Chris, that here we were in the throes of budget, and, you know, now, why is it all of a sudden urgent? Does that discount go away?
Can't guarantee it. It's a one-time offer the vendor made to us. You know, clearly this is the time we're starting to enter that season for us as far as spring. So it felt like a time to do it. It felt like a time where we had some savings from a previous purchase. We had some lapse salaries, and it was being able to use existing funds. So, but I guess it's the combination of taking advantage of an offer. Now we're heading into that season where we're spending a lot of labor trying to you know, clean our curb lines up, and also the existing salaries and shortfalls available.
Well, I was not attacking the unit. I read the benefits that you put in our agenda, and I you know, can't argue with those. I'm not trying to. I see the benefit. I just didn't know what the urgency was. So, and you've answered that. So,
Okay.
so thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a couple, Chris. Who makes this weed seeker?
We're buying it from Carolina Environmental. It is made by the Weed Seeker is the brand name for it. It is an agricultural product that's been in use for agricultural fields. That's all I have on this one is the brand name of it, is the Weed Seeker. We're buying it through our vendor that sold us the sweeper as attachment.
It's an attachment for the sweeper.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Looking at the long term of this particular item, what product does it use? I mean, does it use Roundup?
Yes, sir. Basically, it has 2 optical sensors on it. Basically, it shoots a LED light down on it. It recognizes the chloroform in the grass. Basically, that tells the second sensor to basically inject or fast pulse injection of a Roundup product on that green, on the green product, green weeds that are there in the curb line.
Now, you said Roundup product.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to buy this particular product from these people?
No, sir. We can buy straight from Brigger's Supply, Agri Supply, any local hardware store that sells Roundup-based products, such as Glystar. We actually don't even use Roundup. We use a Glystar-based product.
Other questions?
So is there another use for it except for curbs? I'm trying to figure out the practical, you know, part of this, and, you know, there's cars parked on the curbs, and I see where you still gonna have to get out and
Well,
and
there
do
is
some
time,
hand
there is
spraying
times,
and-
hopefully like in downtown when we sweep early in the morning, there's not cars there. Clearly we'll try to sweep in areas that, you know, necessary, not on trash day where carts are out, where we have to go around it. It's not a cure-all by no means. There's obstacles when we sweep every day that we have to work around, but it will make us a lot more effective in our sweeping and curb management programs, because we're spraying that chemical instead of 4 to 5 times a year. We're spraying it every time we sweep, so we'll have a better control on the vegetation.
And also the environmental impact of, you know, you're spraying on the curb, and of course rain comes and washes the, you know, is there, how
Yes,
does?
sir. In our normal spraying procedures, we do not spray when rain is forecasted within an hour. Roundup has to have a 1 hour contact time, and so we have the ability to turn that system off. if it's just lightly misting, sometimes we'll sweep because that helps keep the dust control down. We'll just toggle this week and turn the system off.
Other questions? What's your pleasure? Well, not hearing.
And it'll pay for itself in a couple of years.
A year and a half,
because
based on our
of,
labor projections now, the payback is 1.5 years, sir.
Nobody's pouncing, we can put this off if you want, or somebody make a motion.
But I make the motion, we go ahead and purchase that.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? 2, 3, 4. Opposed? All right, it passes 4-1.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Item 5, new business 1. I'm going to read these resolutions. And the first one is, well, resolutions and proclamations. The first one is a resolution 2016-09 in support for quality health care in North Carolina. Whereas quality health care is important and necessary for all North Carolina citizens, and whereas the employers in North Carolina, including the town of Zebulon, understands providing access to quality health care to its employees is also important, and whereas the 3 major hospitals, Wake Med, Duke Raleigh, and UNC Rex Healthcare, understand that all parties must work together to ensure that access to care, increased quality of care, and overall cost of care is addressed. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Zebulon Board of Commissioners support the efforts of the North Carolina Legislature, Governor, the healthcare community, business community, and other stakeholders in working together to develop solutions to improve health care in North Carolina. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries, adopted this second day of May, 2016. It's a proclamation, Municipal Clerks Week, May 1st through May the 7th, 2016. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and the agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meeting of their state, Providence County, and international professional organizations, whereas it is most important that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Zebulon, do recognize the week of May 1 through May 7 as Municipal Clerk Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Motion?
I
Motion
move.
to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? And it is adopted this second day of May. Proclamation, National Police Appreciation Week, May 15th through May the 21st, 2016. Whereas the police officers of America have worked devotedly and selfishly in behalf of the people of this nation, regardless of the peril or hazard to themselves, and whereas these officers have safeguarded the lives and property of their fellow Americans, and whereas by the enforcement of our laws, these officers have given our country internal freedom from fear of the violence and civil disorder. Now therefore, we the town, now therefore we, the Town of Zebulon Board of Commissioners, do recognize the week of May 15 through May 21, 2016 as Police Week, and further recognize May 5th as the Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty. And need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made and second, all in favor? And it also is adopted this second day of May, 2016. Public Works turn. Proclamation, Public Works Week, May 15th through the 21st, 2016. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as project management, storm drainage, streets and highways, and property management, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends upon these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public work officials, and whereas the efficiency of qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Public Works Department is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform, now therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Zebulon, do hereby proclaim May 15 through May 21, 2016 as National Public Works Week, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works services and to recognize the contributions with which public works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made and second, all in favor? And it also is adopted second day of May 2016. So thanks to all of you that staff that contribute to the town. We really do appreciate, and the citizens do, the efforts that you put forth. Glenn, board comments, anything? No. Devin? No. Don?
Just give a round of applause for all these three departments that we've mentioned here tonight.
Dale?
Comment, the hard work of the Joe and the staff and everything on the preparation of the budget, I know has not been a very easy job, so
No.
and we don't have an easy job either.
No, that's true, but if it's easy, anybody can do it. All right, Joe?
Mayor, I just want to point out, there was a resolution attached to the budget presentation fixing the date of the public hearing. If the board is interested in holding June 6th, they'll need to make a decision tonight or no later than their work session on May the 10th.
Either way, I would prefer the 10th, if y'all are okay with that.
Do what now?
Do not adopt the public hearing resolution tonight, wait until our meeting on May 10th. Okay, that's what we'll do. All right, anything else, Joe?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, well, we're adjourned.